Pope Leo XIV reaffirms Catholic teaching on marriage, women's ordination, and the role of the family. In a newly published book-length interview, Leo XIV, citizen of the world, missionary of the 21st century, Pope Leo XIV has spoken candidly about some of the most delicate and divisive issues facing the Catholic Church today. The volume, which features conversations with journalist Elise Ann Allen of Crux, provides the first comprehensive portrait of his vision since his election as the first American pope in history. English and Portuguese editions are scheduled for release in 2026. From the outset, the Pope makes clear that he does not foresee major changes in Catholic teaching on sexuality or marriage. While acknowledging that many voices both inside and outside the Church are calling for reforms, he insists that it is very difficult to imagine any alteration to the core doctrine that marriage is a sacramental union between a man and a woman. Family, he stresses, is composed of father, mother, and children, and this structure remains foundational not only for Catholic life but for society itself. Leo XIV's remarks come amid ongoing debates over LGBTQ issues, which he admits have become one of the deepest sources of division in the Church. He emphasizes that the Church's doors remain open to everyone, echoing Pope Francis's famous declaration that all are welcome. But he draws a line between pastoral outreach to individuals and the ritualization of same-sex relationships. Referring to the Vatican Declaration, Fiducia Supplicans, of December 2023, he insists that while the Church can bless persons in their struggles and desires, it cannot create liturgical rites that appear to sanctify unions, which the Church does not recognize as marriage. He points to initiatives in Northern Europe to formalize blessings for same-sex couples and warns that such practices run directly contrary to Catholic teaching. On the question of women's ordination, Pope Leo XIV is equally unambiguous. He rules out the possibility of ordaining women as deacons, reiterating that he has no intention of altering the Church's consistent teaching on the matter. At the same time, he stresses his desire to promote the presence and leadership of women within the Church, following the path opened by Pope Francis, who appointed women to significant positions within the Roman Curia and local diocesan structures. For Leo XIV, the contribution of women is indispensable, but it will not take the form of sacramental ordination. The Pope also situates these doctrinal positions within a broader vision of pastoral care and ecclesial unity. He warns against the danger of ideology, whether progressive or traditionalist, taking precedence over the lived communion of the Church. This concern is especially evident in his reflections on liturgy. While acknowledging that the celebration of the Tridentine Latin Mass has become a flashpoint of conflict, he reminds Catholics that the Mass of the Second Vatican Council can be celebrated reverently and even in Latin. The problem, he says, is not the rite itself, but the way it is sometimes used as a banner in ideological battles. Liturgy, he laments, has too often been turned into a weapon rather than a space of prayer and encounter with the mystery of faith. He calls for dialogue with those attached to the older liturgical form, while at the same time cautioning against hardening attitudes that close off communion. On the international stage, Pope Leo XIV speaks about relations with China, where Catholics have long endured restrictions on religious freedom. He makes clear that the Holy See will continue its policy of dialogue and pragmatism, an approach sometimes described as Vatican Ostpolitik. While avoiding detailed strategies, he stresses that he listens carefully to voices on both sides and seeks above all to protect Chinese Catholics who have suffered under political pressures. Throughout the interview, the Pope returns to the theme of synodality, the practice of walking together in discernment, dialogue, and prayer as a key to healing divisions in a polarized Church and world. He acknowledges that some bishops and leaders feel threatened by this model, fearing it undermines authority, but he insists that synodality is not about dismantling hierarchy. Rather, it is about fostering a genuine sense of shared responsibility among all the baptized. Finally, reflecting on his unprecedented position as the first pope from the United States, Leo XIV distances himself from any suggestion of a political agenda tied to his nationality. His identity, he explains, simply means he brings a first-hand understanding of American realities that previous popes did not share. But his mission, he insists, is not political but evangelical, to keep the gospel at the center and to resist all temptations to reduce it to an ideological tool. Ideology wants to use the gospel, he warns, instead of letting the gospel guide us. In these wide-ranging reflections, Pope Leo XIV reveals a vision that is both deeply traditional and pastorally pragmatic, a church faithful to its teachings on marriage, ordination, and liturgy, but equally committed to openness, dialogue, and communion. His leadership, shaped by his American background, but rooted in the universal mission of the Church, seeks to balance firmness of doctrine with a pastoral heart that refuses to exclude anyone from the reach of God's grace.